Hello. The sun has got his hat on, and all those wonderful expressions about the sun shines and so on. Because have you heard about Russell Young? Russell Young is an Australian man. He's 62 years old, and he came over here. He fell in love with a British lady called Tracy, and he put his life savings into buying a pub in Manchester. And during the lockdown, when pubs have been closed, he took £100 out of the pub each week to pay himself during lockdown, and he has been, or it seems he was going to be punished for that by the government. Now, the government rules say that if you're going to come here on a sort of investment visa, then you have to be earning £18,600 a year. And paying yourself £100 a week obviously will not do that. Now, in fact, Russell Young has been incredibly successful. The turnover of his pub initially, before lockdown, it went from £99,000 a year to £218,000 a year. So there's no way that he can be described as falling beneath standard. It comes close when he was told a few weeks ago that he was given 2 weeks to pack his things and go back to Australia, that his visa was not going to be renewed. When he was told this 2 weeks ago, two or 3 weeks ago, it comes close in my mind to being punished for doing the right thing, for obeying the government orders, closing his pub during lockdown and so on. And then it struck me that this is exactly the same sort of rubbish that we saw when Mrs. May was the Home Secretary. And now, of course, we've got Priti Patel, I think even worse. Mrs. May targeted students quite villainously. And I had a few words with her about it. Often, these students would come to the UK from other countries. They were studying A-levels or they were at university. And suddenly, halfway through their course, their documentation would change and they would have to reapply. And they would find themselves falling foul of Mrs. May's trumped-up bureaucracy. And many students that I knew had started a course and were unable to finish it in time, or they finished it badly because, they had to take 4 months off in exile back in their home country, trying to get through this sort of limbo of paperwork. And, there are many occasions when I had it out with her and with other, I remember going to see my own MP, Andrea Leadsom, who didn't let me get a word in edgewise, but there we are. Anyway, look, Russell, the story doesn't end as badly for Russell, because I thought it would be useful to let you know that even despite Priti Patel's abhorrent nature and her Dalek-like potential, Russell Young has survived. And although he was told to clear out, he's actually had a reprieve and he's been given, finally, his 5-year visa. So there's a sort of happy ending. And, the sun will rise. But it strikes me that this is a story which is becoming all too familiar. And our bureaucrats, the pen pushers, the people who are on the end of the telephone in call centres in HSBC and Virgin Media and all these other ghastly places, the computer says no, and humanity cannot get in the way to change that decision, even if it may be wrong. Now, one of the reasons Mrs. May attacked students so spectacularly was because they were documented. And if somebody has documents, these can be questioned and trimmed and rejected. If somebody isn't documented, if somebody, for example, comes over here as an undocumented migrant, in many ways, their situation is clearer. It may also be ghastly, but their situation is clearer. And we know that there are many people in our country who are completely undocumented and have gone underground because we don't have ID cards and so on. And I'm not suggesting we should have. I'll do something on ID cards a little bit later. But we need to put people first. We need to stop this misery where the bureaucrats think they're in control. I spent most of the morning dealing with bureaucrats from HSBC before I finally spoke to the most delightful person on the end of a telephone called Adam. He really needs a shout out. Thank you very much, Adam. But we need people who are able to see beyond the nonsense bureaucracy. We need people who are able to question what the computer says, who are able to say, okay, maybe the computer says no, but I say yes. Right, please follow my channel and ring the bell. And best wishes, Russell Young. Congratulations.